Let's talk about mint. There's mint sauce with lamb, mint toothpaste, mint breath freshener, mint ice cream, mint juleps, and everybody's favorite around here, the St. John's Mint Festival. But did you know that according to WebMD, mint has medicinal purposes? It helps digestive health and IBS. Mint has even been shown in animals to reduce stress, kill bacteria, and help when it comes to reducing the chance of cancer. Recently, I was up at my in-laws in Boyne City, and my mother-in-law had planted mint in a little planter inside of a bigger planter. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, you have no idea what the IYKYK means, but you'll get it in just a second. Mint will absolutely take over your entire garden. The really real is like mint. If you know, you know. Or consider WD-40. Do you know what WD-40 stands for? Water Displacement Formula 40th Attempt. It was the 40th attempt by the Rocket Chemical Company in 1953 to perfect their water displacement formula. It displaces water. It's a solvent. It's a lubricant. It prevents rust. It's a penetrant. If you know, you know. Had some squeaky hinges on my kid's door at home, or actually at the back of stage 1 at Sycamore Creek, Eastwood, there were some squeaky hinges. Didn't even have to take the pin out. You just spray WD-40 on the outside of it and somehow it penetrates in and it lubricates it, and magically the squeak is gone. The really real is like WD-40. If you know, you know. Jesus used everyday examples like mustard seeds and yeast to talk about the really real. I bet he didn't have planes flying over the mountain that he was trying to preach on. Next time I decide to preach out in the open in a beautiful wilderness mountain, remind me to find somewhere else. Jesus used everyday life examples to talk about and help people understand the really real. His examples were mustard seeds and yeast. I use the example of mint and WD-40. Mustard seeds, like mint, had medicinal purposes, but they also were a weed that could take over everything. And yeast, we think of yeast as like coming in these little dry packages. It's really easy to work with, but yeast was this messy, gooey, it's like starter dough. You know, it's like one of your neighbors brings over some Friendship starter dough, and you got to knead that thing into 50 pounds of flour for it to work. These are the examples that Jesus used to talk about what was really real. The one who has eyes to see and ears to hear can see and hear the really real. If you know, you know. Today, we are beginning an experiment. It's an 18-month experiment. We're going to spend the next 18 months looking at themes in the Sermon on the Mount. We recognize that we have this sort of need in our community to not bounce around quite like we do thematically once a month, but to go really deep into 3 chapters, Matthew chapter 5, chapter 6, and chapter 7. Perhaps Jesus' most well-known teaching, the Sermon on the Mount. Now, we're not going to walk through it line by line or verse by verse, but we're going to put together the themes in the Sermon on the Mount. And the next 18 months are going to be a series of 14 series inspired by those themes. Now, to begin with, in September, we're actually going to cover the Sermon on the Mount itself to prepare you for the next 18 months. There are so many great themes in the Sermon on the Mount, like how to have an enemy, which we're doing next month, how to pray and fast, how to be light, how to change, how to be in relationships, how to be perfect in love, how to be holy, how to not worry, how to know God, how to not judge, how to use words well, how to be saved, how to read the Old Testament, how to be generous, and how to just be. This fall, we're also doing an experiment with our small groups. We're inviting all of our small groups to study the Sermon on the Mount, but not with the same exact book. We've given them a list of all kinds of books that they could choose from, including ones that fly over our head. Instead of reading the exact same book, it's all the same content, but you can choose which one connects with you may be the best. So today we're starting this series called Jesus Alternative Plan. It's based on a book by the Franciscan monk, theologian, pastor, author, speaker, Richard Rohr. Now, Richard Rohr is a Franciscan monk, which means that he's made a couple of vows to things like obedience, poverty, and celibacy. But he's a particularly engaging monk for our day and age, translating a lot of what's going on in our world down into terms about faith and intersection with faith. I think you'll find him very accessible. Rohr is going to give us an overview of the whole Bible, and particularly the book of Matthew, as he leads us in this exploration of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. What we're going to find out is that Jesus is all about the reign of God, or the New World Order, or what he calls the really real. If you've been involved in church in any particular way over some amount of time, or even if just you're a human being on this planet, you probably have some sense of who Jesus is and what Jesus was about. So we're going to stop right now for a chat question and let you answer that. How would you summarize what Jesus is all about?